Hola chicos, buenos días, ¿cómo están? Espero que estén muy bien. Hoy nos vemos otra vez en nuestras clases de marketing digital. El tema de hoy es email marketing, para que estén pues conectados. Recuerden sacar su lápiz, su papel, estar muy pendientes. Si tienen alguna duda, pues la pueden dejar por allá en el chat y voy a estar pendiente para ayudarles con cualquier cosa que tengan. Entonces esperemos un momentico mientras se conectan más personas. Listo. Bueno, entonces vamos a darle inicio ya a la clase y ya los que se vayan uniendo. Listo. En un momentico yo acá la configuro. Listo, ya vamos a empezar con la clase. Listo, que la disfruten.
So, um, I'm Manpreet. I'm one of the lecturers here at Bayswater. I've worked in marketing for almost 20 years, for about 20 years. I studied marketing at university, and then I have worked in London for the majority of that time, working for large organisations like Aviva and John Lewis. And then I've worked for some smaller companies as well. So I've worked for media companies, I've worked for some startups on a freelance basis. And now I have two young children, Bayswater, and so I'm applying all of the principles of digital marketing in my own business, and I'd just like to share my experience with you that I've learned over the last 20 years and how it's applied to digital marketing. So today we're going to talk about email marketing, and email is one of the channels which is probably thought as maybe not as the most exciting when you compare it to things like display ads and social media. But actually, email for me is fantastic. And the reason being is because it is an excellent conversion driving tool. And I'm just going to talk to you today about why email is amazing to use within marketing and how it works with some of the other digital marketing channels. And I'm going to share with you my experience at John Lewis and show you some examples of how we used email within our campaigns. And there is a lot of content within this section actually, so I'm not going to be able to cover everything here, but if you do have any questions about anything within the module, do let us know. So really today what I'm going to talk about is show you examples of the strategies that we applied at John Lewis, and hopefully that will kind of make sense to you guys and see kind of in a real life example as to how it worked really well for us and the strategies that we used. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Sorry. So, so I mentioned that email is a really powerful conversion tool. And sorry, just to say, if you have any questions, just pop it into the Q&A and I'll get to them. So the benefits of email is so many. One of them, which is really important, is that everybody that is on your email database, you own that data. So in comparison to, you might have a large following on social media, you don't actually own that data, and it can be quite risky if you've got huge numbers. You know, Instagram at any point or Facebook at any point can shut those platforms down, and you've then lost all of your customer data. So with email, it's really important, especially for kind of somebody starting a new business or launching a new part of their business, to start growing their subscriber list. So that's also kind of known as your database. And also your database is an asset, is a tangible asset. So if you were ever to sell your company, the larger your database is, the more value that your company has. And the reason for this is that your subscriber list is really valuable because they have asked to be, or they have committed to receive content from you, which means that they are interested, they like you, they're interested in the content that you're producing and the products that you're offering, and they're open to receiving that information. So they're really engaged and would be regarded as your loyal customer base. And because of that, when you then have an offer or a product that you try to sell through your email channel, businesses see extremely high conversion rates from them. So it's a really, really powerful tool in terms of actually getting sales. So where we look at the funnel in terms of, we've got awareness, interest, consideration, conversion, email comes into the consideration and conversion area. And similar to content marketing, where you grow your audience over a period of time, with email, you want to be continuously growing your database and your subscriber list so that you have got a wider reach. And ultimately, once you've got a significant number of people, when you have a product to sell to them, you'll see really a significant conversion rate in comparison to the other channels. And these will vary depending on your business, but you will notice that businesses will be really trying to capture customer details for that purpose. So, for example, loyalty cards were introduced by companies years ago. And that was really to get data on their customers. And that was a thing that was really valuable to them, because they could understand so much about the customer, and therefore they could tailor their products and services to them. So John Lewis did this as well. So John Lewis have got a partnership card, which is a credit card, which is also a loyalty card. So customers are rewarded with vouchers after a certain amount of spending. And John Lewis identified that customers were spending a significant amount of money outside of their department store, and the products that people were buying were financial services products and travel products. So they launched a new division of the business, which was travel and insurance. And I worked within the insurance section of that business. And so we had to grow our audience. Although we had a big database of customers that we then thought, and it worked really well because we already had a significant subscriber list. We were able to sell these new products to the customers on our subscriber list, and that worked really well. But then once we had kind of hit those people and those people had bought, we needed to then extend our subscriber list so we could reach a lot more people. And we knew that this was really important to us. And we knew the amazing results that we would get from the emails that we were sending. So we had a significant budget in order to entice people to sign up to our subscriber list. So for example, with when we launched our car, just before we launched our car insurance product, we had a campaign where we were giving away a Volkswagen Golf as a competition. So we were trying to get people to give us their email addresses, so that they could we could talk to them later on. And the prize was a Golf, and we actually had the Golf outside one of the shops. I think it was in Bluewater. So you might think, well, that's a really expensive prize to be given away, but in terms of what the return that we would get from the number of subscribers and then the people that would eventually buy from us, we were still making a really good return on that. And what we also did with our home insurance products, where we had a rolling monthly campaign where we were giving away vouchers, and we tested different amounts of vouchers. So typically like £100, £250, £500 of John Lewis vouchers. And then we had that monthly campaign rolling so that we were on a monthly basis having new subscribers to our database and growing our database. So it just shows how important it is to grow your database, and it does take time. So advice would be to start as soon as possible in terms of growing your subscriber list. And if you're a service-based business, you may have seen adverts maybe on Facebook where you have been offered to download a free ebook, for example, or it might be a video, or it's maybe a free piece of content, and they're asking for your email address in order for that exchange. And again, it's the same concept of giving away something for free to entice somebody to give them their email address. And when you have something like an ebook, it also means that that person is interested in the content that you're providing, which would then ultimately be related to the product that you're offering. So it's also identifying the right type of customer. So you're using that, and they call these lead magnets. So you're using that as a hook so you know the people that you've got in your database are people that you want. They're basically interested in your content, and they're interested in the products or services that you're providing. So let's move to the next slide. So the lead magnets work really, really well, and they have they're a really good way of growing your subscriber list, and you can do it quite quickly, and you can accelerate this list by having maybe sponsored ads. So you could use the other channels like Facebook ads to be promoting your lead magnets so that you get a wider reach, and then you have people subscribing to your database. And yes, it might cost you a little bit to be promoting the ads, but the return that you'll get as a result will outweigh what it's costing you to advertise. You can test, different lead magnets, which ones work better for you. And really, the other thing that you want to do is capture as much information as you can. So you want to really get a really good idea as to who your audience are, so that you can tailor your content to what they're looking for. So really, if you're a service-based business, you might be trying to solve a problem for them, and you really want to kind of understand who they are, the language that they respond to, and the type of problems that they're facing, so that you can help them in the right way. So let me just check if there's any questions. No. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that? And just on that, so when people subscribe to your subscriber list, you would want to have your emails then going out to the customers once they have started subscribing. So you don't want them to be sitting in your, if it's a new list that you're creating, you don't want to have people kind of just sitting there and then you've not spoken to them in months. So you would want to have your series of emails there and ready, and they would be triggered and automated when somebody has signed up to your email list. So for an example of that would be a welcome email when somebody subscribed, thank you for subscribing, and then you can choose to possibly have a double opt-in at that point, and I'll go on to that in a minute about what that means. But when you have your subscriber list, the email within the email service provider, so for example MailChimp, they're all very similar. MailChimp is used, it's free up until 2,000 emails. So for smaller businesses, it's one of the preferred options for them. You can subscribe your list. So when I was at John Lewis, we had over 1 million people on our subscriber list, and that's a lot of people. That's a huge amount of people to manage on our database. So we had a very organised and segmented list, because you don't want to be sending the same email to all of those people. So you'd really want to segment your subscriber list, and there's lots of different ways of doing it. So you can use your usual segmentation, your demographics, but also look at customer behaviour. So look at whether they're a customer, a new person to your subscriber. So whether they've purchased from you. So have they joined your subscriber list because they've purchased from you, or are they a subscriber who are new to you and are yet to purchase? That's quite an important distinction. And then not forgetting those people that are repeat customers and are regular customers, and then you've got customers that may have bought from you once but haven't bought from you again. So just looking at customer behaviour and how they respond. You've obviously got your demographics, and you can look at things like how they respond to your content, and whether they've downloaded content, how are they interacting with your business, because all of those things will allow you to then tailor your emails to those people. I talked about retargeting last week when we covered display and YouTube ads, and retargeting works really, really well. And so retargeting would be an email is triggered when somebody has put something in their basket, but they have abandoned their shopping cart. So they've put something in, but they've not yet purchased. So a retargeted email would go out to them and say, hi there, don't forget you've still got this in your basket. And again, there's a really high rate of conversion as a response from those emails going out to those people. And then you might trigger another email, which is a complimentary product, offering a complimentary product because they've bought something else. So, for example, if somebody's bought bought from a beauty site, shampoo and conditioner, a follow-up email might be, you might want this hair treatment oil or this hair mask or something like that, which is related, and it's personalised and tailored because they understand what your shopping habits are and the products that you like. And again, that these type of emails have a really high conversion rate. Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay. Okay, so we've got one question. So within the email service providers that you use, there is software within there that helps you to segment. It is it's still quite a manual process, but it will allow you to segment, and it provides you with all the insights that show you how your customers are behaving. So it will tell you how many people have opened, how soon after the email was delivered did they open, and the majority of people will open the email within a couple of hours of receiving it. But if they're maybe opening the email, I don't know, 7 to 8 hours after receiving it, then that might change your strategy to want to send the email at a time where people are opening it. So for example, if people are working, if your audience are working, say 9 to 5, and people are opening their emails after 5 p.m, you might want to change your strategy so you're sending your emails after 5 p.m. I hope that answered your question. So it's yeah, so it's done. There is software within the service providers that does that for you, or allows you to do that. You will have to create those separate lists. Okay, so automated emails. These would be, you would use automated emails for things like if somebody has made a product purchase, and there would be an automatic email to say thank you for your purchase, maybe expected delivery time, and you may do a follow-up email after that to say were you happy with your purchase? Do you want to give us like a review or a 5-star or a rating? And if somebody's again subscribed to your email list, you may have a sequence of emails which would be thank you for subscribing to our email list, possibly a double opt-in. So a single opt-in would be where somebody, if they're on your website and they click on a box that says, would you like to receive our newsletter? And a double opt-in would be they check that box, they then get an email and they have to reconfirm that they're happy to receive emails from you. And the results show that those people that have the double opt-in are the more engaged people on your database. So they would be the ones that are opening the emails, they're interested in receiving content from you, they have a lower unsubscribe rate, and really the recommended opt-in method would be the double opt-in. And also you can, at points during the time, you can always send emails to people that may have not opened an email from you for, say, consistently over a period of time, say 3 months, and you can send them an email again and say, just checking, do you still want to receive emails from me? If not, that's fine, you can unsubscribe. If you do, please reconfirm. And the reason that you would, so I'm jumping around a bit, but the reason that you would do that is you want to keep your open, you want to keep your open rates high, and when people are not opening your emails, they will get sent to their to their maybe their spam folders or their junk folders, because your email provider will recognise that you're not interested in receiving these emails. And it might be that the email provider has just done that, and that happens to me quite often, and I miss emails that I actually wanted to read, and I've missed offers that I wanted to know about. So in terms of your monitoring and your statistics, it's much better to have a really healthy, clean database where people are interested in and looking at your content, than having a larger database where people are not, and you're not getting the good open rates, because that doesn't necessarily mean your content is not working. It just means that those people are no longer interested. So when we were at John Lewis, so I'll just give you an example of a email sequence that we had. And this was for a insurance product when it was coming up for renewal. So the insurance product would be purchased, and that would be for a 12-month period. And we would then send a email 60 days prior to the renewal date to let the customer know that their renewal date is coming up, what their renewal premium will be for the next 12 months, and what they would need to do. So they would either continue paying on their direct debit, or if they had made a one-off payment, they can make a one-off payment. And if we then didn't hear from them, they would get another email 30 days prior to the renewal date, again similar content, and then they would get one 7 days before, and there would be a bit more urgency around this to say your insurance will be expiring in 7 days. If you still want to continue with this policy, please let us know. This is what you need to do. And then we would allow them up to 7 days after the renewal date, and we'll continue to keep cover for them. But then, day one after their renewal date would be a reminder letter, email. Day 5 would be another reminder, and day 7 we would assume that they no longer want the cover, and we would lapse the policy. So we would say on day 7, we've now lapsed your policy, but if you do want to if this was an error and you want to take cover again, this is what you would need to do, and call us on this number. So that was just an automated set of emails, and we would review that maybe once a year to make sure the content was still just to kind of make sure that our content was still current and up to date. And you just want to kind of glance your eye to make sure that with your branding and things that are moving, you want to make sure that your branding and stuff is current. So don't necessarily, once it's automated, just leave it for years. I would still review to make sure your content is how you want it to be. Okay, Megan's asked a question. Are there similar rules to Instagram and social media direct messages as email marketing, for example, timing? Yeah, that's a really good question. I will answer it now. I will cover it later on as well. But yes, so I talked about the huge volume of people that we had on our database, and there's a couple of considerations that you need to have when you're sending emails to large volumes of people. One is you can't send like 1 million emails all in one go. You would have to stagger them and have them in smaller kind of numbers, so that technically they can actually get to their destination. So we knew that Tuesdays and Thursdays were the best days for us to be sending emails, and we would stagger those emails at different times during that day. So it might be that 5 p.m. is the best time to send it, but sometimes if you've got huge volumes, you can't just send all of them at at that time. So they would go from about 10 o'clock in the morning, and they would go throughout the day and be sent to our customers. And really, it just, there's when you look within this course, within the slides, it talks about looking at your audience and looking at the personas. So understanding who they are, like do they work, what hours do they work? Do they work shift work? Do they work 9 to 5? Do they commute by getting the train into work? And if so, are they checking their emails before work and after work and during their lunch break, to really identify when is the optimum time to be sending the email? And all of these stats will be available on whichever email service provider that you're using, and it will tell you as soon as you send the email, the stats will be coming through in terms of who's opened it, you know, what's happening, who's clicking through the links that you've got within your email. And it would just depend. It's just a case of testing and learning to see what timing works for you, and optimizing that. And also in terms of content as well, with email, the idea is not that you're providing so much information that it's like a blog. It would be something that is a mix between imagery and content, with a really strong call to action, really kind of being really quick and easy in terms of like the point that you're trying to make within the email, because people are short of time, and more content is trying to be much easier to digest, because people are continuously bombarded with emails, social media, marketing messages, and there is kind of a lot of overwhelm for audiences. So you want to make it as targeted, personalized as possible, interesting, engaging, adding value, maybe even inspiring. And if your content can deliver those things within email, then you will continue to have longevity with your subscriber list, and people will want to continue to, you know, look forward to receiving your emails. I think the thing is to make sure that you are adding value. Obviously, it really depends on what type of business you are. But for example, if it's retail and people like to be the first one to know about offers. So I know particularly with John Lewis, customers, they wanted to be the first people to know about the clearance sale, and there's only ever two big sales in John Lewis, which is the summer clearance and just after Christmas. And they want to, you know, they're the type of people that want to be the first people to know about new products and offers. And again, there would be specific offers that would be tailored just to the email list. So having something to entice people to want to subscribe is a really good thing to kind of keep your audience engaged. My sister-in-law, she works for Canon, the camera company, and they have a above average open rate for their emails for their existing customers, so the people that have purchased from them. And the way that they've done that is that they've developed a community within their existing customer base. And it's quite often that actually businesses will focus on getting new leads to the company and maybe forget about the existing customers. But they really understand that actually if somebody's bought from you once, they're much more likely to buy from you again, and they're actually people that we want to keep, and we recognise the value that they have. And so they have a community which allows people to they've got something in common because they enjoy photography, so they've got this hobby that they have in common, and they share tips, and they share tips on kind of the different functionalities of the cameras and the photographs they've taken. And it's an extremely highly engaged community and audience that they have there, which is really, really above average. So again, maybe not thinking, sometimes when people think about email, they might just think of, okay, just sending out like newsletters and content, and it's maybe thinking about email in a different way, a bit like, I suppose, social media, because you do want your audience to be really engaged, and the good news is that they have come to you to say, yes, I want to receive content from you. So I'm just going to talk about trigger emails next. Okay, trigger email. So these emails would be triggered when a customer action has been taken. So an example would be, for example, the abandon the shopping cart. If somebody has gone onto your website and left, then it could trigger an email that goes to that customer. Again, a product purchase, that would be a good point to have a trigger email. Again, it could be a thank you for a thank you. Well, you would need to have a thank you for purchasing email, and then within that, you might even say, would you like to buy this? Or some of our customers who bought this product also bought this. You probably see that from Amazon quite a lot. And in John Lewis, so we had not only the database of customers from John Lewis, but we also had all of the data from Waitrose as well, because it's a partnership. We had all of that data, and the people that were actually, won't be surprising for you to know that the people that had subscribed to receive information from Waitrose and John Lewis, so we had a Waitrose and John Lewis database, we had a Waitrose only database and a John Lewis only, which just meant that they had opted into receiving, whichever emails they wanted. It won't surprise you to know that the people that were on the John Lewis Waitrose database were our most loyal customers, and that's measured by the amount they spend, the uptake of when we are launching new products and how interested they are in them, and the more engaged they are basically within the business. And when if a customer had bought pet food from Waitrose on a consistent basis, that would then trigger us to send a pet insurance email with starting a conversation to be, did you know that we also offer pet insurance? Because we're assuming that from their purchase behaviour that they have got a pet, which would be a cat or a dog, because that's the food that you can buy. And then again, within the John Lewis store, if somebody had purchased a high value item like a sofa or a TV, then that would trigger starting a conversation about, did you know that we also offer contents insurance, and these are the great advantages of having contents insurance from John Lewis. And again, another trigger email would be when their product is coming up for renewal, so their insurance product, they would then get a sequence of emails right up until their renewal date. And if they had renewed, then they would get the thank you for renewing, your cover will last for another 12 months. If you need to make a claim, this is what you do. And it's just all there, and it's just all done for you once you've got it organised. So yeah, you don't need to think about it. So just going back to really answering Megan's question as well. So how did we send their emails. So they were staggered. They were staggered throughout the day, so that we weren't sending large volumes all in one go. Because as I mentioned before, that can cause problems with the actual physical sending of the emails. And one of the tips within this course is, if you have regularly been sending, for example, 50,000 emails weekly, and then you suddenly jump up to like 500,000, it's unlikely that those emails will be sent, and they'll probably be blocked. So if your database is growing, it's recommended that you increase, like you slowly increase the amount of emails that you're sending to work up to that amount, rather than just going from kind of a huge jump from 50 to 500,000. And one of the really important key things to do before you send your email is to test. Every single time that you send the email is to test it beforehand. So John Lewis is a big company. We had a test team that would test the emails before they would be sent out. And the types of things that you would be looking to test for are like typos. You want to look at formatting. So within different email providers, for example, Hotmail, Yahoo, Outlook, your email, the formatting can look different. So you'd want to test that the email formatting looks how it should be on all of those different email service providers. And what you want to be doing, what you would want to be doing is optimize the first piece of content that your audience will see, and that will decide whether they decide to open the email or not. And it's really difficult to kind of think about a really great subject line, and that's one thing that I would suggest that you would test. So the content of the email, the timing, everything would be the same, and you take an equal number of test A and test B, and then you would test which subject line has the best open rate. And again, the other types of things that you might want to do A/B testing on are your call to action. So that would be what is it that you want them to do? So do you want them to buy now, or book now, or sign up for, those kinds of words? But it's also, what font size, what colours do you use, where is it placed on the actual email? There's lots of things that you can think about when you're coming to create your emails, but the biggest things that will have the impact are things that affect your open rate, which would be your subject line, and then the call to action. So what is it that you want them to do? So you want that to be really really visible and clear as to where that is. The other thing that you probably may not have maybe thought about is the unsubscribe button. So it's much better for people to unsubscribe from your list if they're not interested, rather than have them say that this is I don't want, rather than like click the junk or the spam button, because that will have a negative impact on your metrics. So you want to make it is easy and visible if people no longer want to receive your emails, to find out where the unsubscribe button to unsubscribe. And it would be something that this is what you would want to measure on an ongoing basis. So you would want to continuously make sure that each month you've got new subscribers coming in that take into account those ones that are leaving you. And you just want to measure that rate to make sure month on month it's consistent. In terms of kind of managing your unsubscribe rate, you may have seen this when you've gone to unsubscribe from an email. It could be they could give you a list of options to say unsubscribe for a month, or unsubscribe for 6 months or 12 months. And sometimes they also give you an option to say you can unsubscribe from these type of emails, but you're still interested in these type of emails. And so you're not losing them completely, but you're also getting an insight in terms of what type of content are they interested in. So they might be interested in maybe product offers and sales offers, but they're not necessarily interested in reading a newsletter each week because they maybe don't have time for it. That was like a really quick run through in terms of how email worked for us. And just to kind of recap, a lot of businesses are really pushing to grow their subscriber list, and having something like a lead magnet with a sequence of emails after that, with the ultimate goal is kind of you send them a free piece of content, you then follow up with maybe additional pieces of content, and then if they're opening those additional pieces of content, so you're giving them more and more free content and really adding value, then after kind of point 4 or 5, you can then see that they're interested in that, they're opening those emails, they're downloading the content that you've provided them. It is probably a really good time to then give them an offer of a product that you're selling, and there's generally a really, really high conversion rate when that's done. So businesses are really seeing the value of really understanding and optimizing that particular email sequence to drive new sales. And it's really cost effective, it's really low what it will cost you. It's really, really low value to acquire a customer in that way. The cost would be from creating the content and creating the emails, but service providers like MailChimp, as I said, are free, but then other email service providers, again, it's a really low cost. When you're looking at higher numbers, it's still a really, really low cost. And again, they are your loyal customers. They will be there with you for a long period of time, and they're the type of people to recommend you to their friends and family as well. So I think it's a really, really important channel for you to use. And again, one of the other benefits is that you own all the data, and it's why that's important is that that when you have an offer, you've kind of got a guaranteed, looking at your past experience, you've kind of got a guaranteed idea as to how many sales you will make when you send out an offer to those people. So I just wanted to maybe stop there and check whether you guys have any questions. So, Megan, did you have any, or Lucinda, did you have any?
I think you've probably already addressed it, but as a kind of consumer who gets email marketing, I guess the biggest kind of challenge and the biggest question is how do you cut through all of that? But I think that, it's all about really answering a need that potential customers might have, right? So you're not marketing to people who don't necessarily want what you've got to offer, right?
Yeah, so
quality, good creativity, good quality. And we often get questions, say when we're doing webinars on things like Instagram, it's like, how do you grow your following? And it's like, ultimately, and Lawrence touched on this in his first lecture, you need good creative stuff. You need good quality, everything.
Yeah. And people like yeah, so it definitely is that. It's like really have really good quality images and things like that. With email as well, you want it to be really light, so you don't want to have too many images. You want to make sure your images are correctly sized so that you're not sending something that's too heavy, because then it's going to be take a long time to load and open the email, and it will be really difficult to send. So it depends on, I suppose, your audience, but people like to see pictures of other people. So if, for example, you're a service provider, people like to see pictures of other people. So understanding what things, and this would be something that you could quite easily test. And the content, so you're really looking, I suppose, towards like maybe a 50-50 or maybe slightly 60-40 in terms of like your image versus content ratio, and maybe having, like, say, 3 paragraphs, no longer than that, of content. And if you're a retailer, sending out an email with maybe, I don't know, autumn collection has arrived, or we've got 20% off for like the next 48 hours. Those types of emails have really high open rates and really high click-through rates. And then if you have maybe, say, for example, like a food, so for example, if I use my, I have a food allergy community, and the types of things that my audience are interested in are recipes. So whilst that's not something that I offer as a product, it adds value because people like to look at really nice pictures of food, and just to get inspiration of things that they may have not, maybe ingredients that they have not used before, or a recipe that they've not used before. So it's just adding value. It's something that they're interested in looking at, and that's why it's really important to really understand your audience, so that you can understand what is it actually that they're interested in. And I think what Canon do in terms of really adding value and really teaching and really allowing their community to actually create the content for them is really clever. And I think looking at other channels, so looking at maybe Instagram and looking at Facebook and seeing what are the types of things that people are interested in, or what's trending at the moment, can give you content inspiration. But again, people are really visual. They like to look at images, and they want to be able to click through to something. So if you're offering something to them, that make it really easy for them to kind of click on to whatever that is, whether it's a guide or a video. A lot of people are sending links to videos within their emails as well, and that works really well because it's just easier for people to take in that information. Thank you. I think Megan's asked another question. Do you have any other alternative suggestions to Litmus? Yes, I do. Active Campaign is another one that's recommended. I know a few people that use Active Campaign, and the benefit of that is in the way that it allows you to segment your customers. So again, that would be for more, if you've got a larger database of customers, that would be a really good one for you. It is a paid one as well. There are lots of different ones, but yeah, Active Campaign is one that I have come across, and I know a lot of people use that. There is a lot more content. There is a lot more within the actual email section. So I would look at that. Particularly, what I haven't covered today is your legal requirements in terms of opt-ins and who you can email, and the legislation around data protection, and the legislation around what needs to be contained on your email. So that would be things like you must have your company address, you must have a contact where people can contact you, you've got to have your unsubscribe button. So I would look at, definitely go over and look at those. But everything else is pretty much around making, and the reason I focused on growing your database is some people really forget that and just start off with, I don't know, 10, 20 people and start selling them loads of stuff. And really you just want to, the idea is that you're trying to get your customers to like and trust you, and then they'll buy from you. And once, because email comes down later down the funnel, you've kind of done that with your content marketing already. But you just want to grow and keep those people engaged with your emails. And yeah, it's just through testing and learning. There's no unique formula, because it just depends on your industry and your audience. And that's the fun part. It's finding out. Does anyone else have any questions? I hope that was helpful.
Really helpful, Manpreet.
Thank you.
Well, I need to just study the module now. Doing things in the wrong order this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of content in the module. I think I really like email, and I've used it for a long time. So yeah, sometimes when you're reading the content, it can just seem like, oh, there's so much information. But once you've done all the modules, there's a lot of crossovers in terms of like measuring and doing your testing. That kind of applies to that's the same for every single channel. And your segmenting, your strategy, they're all going to be, your content strategy in terms of like what's engaging is all going to be very similar across all of them. So it should hopefully get easier as you go through the modules.
All right, thanks a million, Manpreet.
Okay. All right, take care. Thank you. Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Hola chicos, espero que les haya gustado la clase. Nos volveremos a ver en este tipo de eventos que vamos a seguir teniendo. Igual van a estar pendientes pues con la comunicación. Un segundo, para que me vean. Bueno, muchas gracias realmente por conectarse a todas las clases, a las personas pues que estuvieron conectadas. Muchísimas gracias. Esto realmente lo trajimos para ustedes, para que, si no necesariamente entendieron todo, pues fue un diagnóstico más o menos de cómo están en el nivel de inglés, como lo que pueden vivir cuando van a ver una clase en el exterior, o si tienen ese proyecto, para que se hagan una idea de cómo están, ¿cierto? Muchísimas gracias igual por estar conectados, y estaremos comunicando cualquier otra clase o alguno de estos espacios que tengamos en nuestras redes sociales. Recuerden seguirnos y seguirnos en el YouTube, que vienen muchas cosas nuevas para ustedes. Listo. Que tengan un feliz día. Chao.